So today I'm going to talk to you about harvesting the rain. Now, some people have caught like the rain harvesting bug and they're all excited and they go buy a rain tank and they really don't have anything that they really want to do is spend the rain that they caught on anything, on watering anything. They just wanted to catch it. And so sometimes we get wrapped up in these, what can seem like a fad, but is actually really a very powerful tool. You can actually get a lot of very clean water, or cleaner than what you might have otherwise, just by catching the rain. Now, the other thing I want to say is you don't actually need a rain tank to catch the rain. You just need to direct it in the right areas. But it all depends on your circumstances. So let's talk. Maybe you get a lot of rain and there's no possible way that you could catch enough of it. Or maybe you hardly get any rain, like here in the desert areas, and you're trying to catch as much as possible. But really it all goes around your budget. And I'm not just talking about your financial budget, like how much money you can fork out for one of these tanks, because they're not cheap. But it comes down to, what is your water budget? Do you need all of that water? And when are you going to get the water? Are you going to get the water, when you're actually going to put it on the plants, or are you just catching it during the rainy season so that you can use it later? All of these questions come into play. So for my circumstances, for example, I only get water during 2 seasons. And sometimes that can seem like all year, but it really isn't. We have a wet season in the winter, and we have a couple of months in the summer when it rains for monsoon season. We got some very intense rains this year. Now, if I had had a tank out there, it probably would have filled up, and I probably would not have used it right then, because we had so much rain, so much moisture. I wasn't even watering my plants. I literally still have them off, the sprinklers off, so that everything can dry out. When I moved to Arizona 5.5 or 6 years ago, there wasn't really a mosquito anything. There was no mosquito problems for sure. And now, the last year or two, there have been so many mosquitoes. I am just like getting eaten by mosquitoes. It's insane. So I finally had to pull out the bug spray again, because I was like, I can't do this. There's West Nile virus and all of that, but more than that, I just can't stand being bit and itching. So enough about me. Now, you might be in one of those areas that gets a ton of rain and you don't know what to do with all the water. So there's 2 things you might want to consider. So first of all is diverting and directing the rain around your property. So making sure that there's proper paths that the rain can take. They don't have to be huge depressions in the ground, just a area that it can pool in and that is sloped with a gentle slope down to wherever you want it to be. And you can actually use that method to direct it around your yard and water all sorts of things, right? Maybe there's an area that gets tons, that water pools right there, but you actually needed it on the other side of your house. Well, that's where you need to have like little gentle ditches. It's basically a ditch that you just allow to grow over. Maybe you put some rocks in there and you make a path for the water to go around your house to where you actually need it. You don't have to have a rain tank to do that. So don't feel like just because you need water somewhere else that you've either got to turn on a spigot or that you have to catch rain, because you don't. You just need to know how to direct the rain, direct the water. You could even use gray water. Now that's a whole entire different video, but gray water is essentially like you've washed your laundry, you used the right soap, and you want to use that water again, and you need it for some trees that you have out in front that maybe you have a hard time getting water over there. So you just use that water for a second time, and use that to water your trees. That's one of the ways that you can look, probably the first way you should be looking at what catching water is, by actually planning out the path and making a way for the water to follow that path to where you actually want the water to be. And maybe you have a rain garden that's dry most of the year, but when the rain comes, your path leads there, and you have plants in there that can handle the absolute dry and the pouring, flooding wet, okay? It's a thing. We can work on that if you want some help. Let me know in the comments. Now, if your water budget is kind of like mine, where you don't want to actually have to turn on the water and pay the utility company to send you water, or you just want to try to get your water bill down, then you might want to consider a rain tank. Maybe you want to do more planting and growing things than what you actually have rain for if you were just to let the rain land on the ground. So then you would have a rain tank, and you would catch the rain from your roof or other surfaces that are safe to drink the water from after they've landed on those surfaces. So that's something to consider. If you just had a roof tile, roof put on, not roof tile, an asphalt tile roof put on, like if you've got a brand new roof, I wouldn't really do that, because they've shown that there is leaching, especially when the tiles are new and at the very end of their life cycle. So be careful of the material that's on your roof if you're going to use rainwater that's come off your roof. But, on YouTube, I've also seen videos where somebody has put up they built kind of like a roof, right? It's like just metal that they've set up on a frame that's angled, and then they just catch that water. Depends on how much space you have and how ambitious you feel and how much money you have to throw at it, right? It all depends on your circumstance. But if you decide that you're going to catch it, then you have to look at your water budget. How much is falling on the ground? And then how much do you actually need? And how much you actually need depends on the vegetation that you have, the vegetables that you want to grow, the fruit trees that you want to water, all of those things, because they each take different amounts of water. And then you need to plan out over the year, like, okay, these 3 months of the year, and my winter wet season is January, February, March, which just happens to be when we're starting to plant for spring, but you got to wait till the end of, the last frost. That water can go towards helping my fruit trees grow and helping maybe those initial plantings, if it's still watering when I can actually plant in the ground before, right after the last frost. But what I can do in those times is catch the water in a rain tank. And so how I decide how big my rain tank is going to be is based off of that kind of budgeting, right? If I want to catch it for that season, it's going to be a smaller size than if I'm trying to catch it for the whole year and then just start using it then. So those are the things to look at. How much water do you need? When are you going to use it? When are you going to be able to collect it? Start looking at those things and writing down and really figuring out how much water does it take to water a fruit tree where it can give you a healthy production of fruit, right? Just keeping it alive is not the same as it being productive for you. And if you're just keeping it alive, why are you watering it? Like, is it giving you shade? That might be a legitimate reason why. Is it protecting some other thing, or somebody loves to climb it? I don't know. If it's got a benefit to you, then it's worth keeping alive. But if it doesn't, then don't waste your money. Don't throw your water away. It's a resource. Don't throw it away on something that you don't even enjoy, or it's not doing a thing for you. Okay, that's enough about that. Do your research. Figure that out. Figure out how much you need. If you want, and you want me to do a video and go into more detail about that, then let me know in the comments. I'm happy to do that. I just don't want to bore you with a spreadsheet and talking through all the numbers. But I'm a number girl, so I'm happy to go there. Now, the other thing is quality. I really want to talk about the quality of a rain tank. There were different ones, and I'll show you those in just a moment. There are different kinds of water tanks, and a lot of it has to do with like, okay, can mosquitoes get in? There's a lot of filters and caps and stuff like that. The technology is there, is what I'm trying to get at, to keep mosquitoes out of your water system. You do not want sitting water left open to the environment because mosquitoes will get in there. They will lay their eggs, and then you'll have a mosquito problem. There's other animals that can get in. There's other critters that can get in there, and they either die in there or they breed in there, whatever. But you don't want your system open to the environment. You don't want to just have like an open bathtub for sure. And you certainly want to make sure that the openings are closed unless or until they need to be open. So there's that. Now, when I went to the tank store in Tucson, there were definitely like basically big drums is what the design looked like. They just had kind of a screen on top, and then the water could go in, but it looked like just about all the dust and dirt could get in there too. It wasn't super sanitary. Like I wouldn't necessarily use that for my drinking water, or probably not even to water my plants. And then I imagine in those kind of tanks, there's a lot of cleaning because the sediment would just settle out at the bottom. Now, some people love it. They did look cute. They look very decorative, but as far as their purpose, as far as their use, I wouldn't really want to use them. So that's that. But then there's also different styles, different thicknesses in a rainwater tank. One of the important factors you need to check on and make sure of is that it is completely dark, that there isn't sunlight getting in there growing algae, because it can. And there's different brands that are out there, but what I'm understanding, if what I was told is correct from this distributor, I think there's about 4 different brands that are all owned by the same company, but they're just not all the same quality is the difference. So there is one that you'd want to buy. I will have to put that name on the screen because I don't have it in front of me right this moment. It is more expensive. I did look into it, and it does come with that more cost. So again, it comes down to making sure that you're sizing your tank appropriately. And if you don't need a tank, don't buy one. Now, when I was getting the quotes for my gutters, the guy was giving me some pearls of wisdom, and he was telling me you need more water than just like, he was like, I don't even think you could line up enough 55-gallon drums to catch all the water that your roof is producing. So that's why I have kind of a split plan. I have some of it that I'm going to allow to overflow and do flood irrigation because I have plenty of trees. Maybe I shouldn't have all the trees that I have now that I know about water budgeting. But they need that water, the flood irrigating. So I'm going to use a system that I'm setting up anyways to help reduce the flooding on my property. And if you've seen some of my videos, I can link those below. There's been flooding problems. So what I'm trying to do is size for what I need, what I'll use to be able to water my vegetables, to be able to water my whatever plants that are edible, and then be able to plan to have some flood irrigation happening. And then maybe I'll buy a second tank depending on what I need. So I really need to sit down and do some math some more. And maybe that's the video I'll do, is sit down and show you the math that I'm going through so that you can do the math that you need to do. So if that would be helpful for you, please comment in the comments, and hopefully I'll be able to get that done and just link to the video in the comments later on. But for now, quality of your tank. If you can see through the tank, it is no bueno. Don't buy that one. Not good. Now, some people buy them and then they spray them, but the other problem with that is it's probably really thin and it's probably going to have a higher chance of breaking or busting or some other problem that you're going to have. That's a consideration. Now, the other considerations that you need to have is knowing the configuration that you're going to have. Are you going to have it right underneath the downspout where it's going to come straight into your tank, and then you're just going to hook up a hose and water from there? Or that's called the dry system. Do you need to transport it somewhere else because you want to put your tank somewhere where it's less, where either you have more space for it or it's not going to be an eyesore? Where I'm putting mine is actually going to be in the back of the house anyways. The only people that are going to see it are the people walking in the path at the park behind me that I don't want. You know, I'm trying to grow plants for privacy anyway, so dealing with that problem already. So there's that. Quality. How are you going to get the water into the tank? Because if it has to be dropped down a pipe and go through a pipe to your tank somewhere else, like it's going down here and then coming up over here and going into the tank, that's called a wet system. So it's different setup, more piping. You should have somebody probably help you with the calculations on that. So you can message me, we can talk about that if you want, or find somebody locally that can do that with you. Now, the other thing to consider is a first flush. I've heard both ways. Some people say absolutely don't have a first flush. Other people say absolutely you have to have a first flush. In my opinion, I would want a first flush. I know that my roof is going to be dusty. I just have a dusty area. I've got animals that run around up there. I can hear them here and there. I don't want bird poop in my water. I would rather have it flushed out and then know that clean water is able to get in after that. So I recommend a first flush. I don't know what your situation is, but I would definitely look into that. Okay. Trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's a really good, first think through. That's a lot to think about, and I don't really want to dump too much on you. So this is a really good, first video. Here are lots of things that you should be considering in whether or not you need a tank, what kind of tank you're going to get, and then how you're going to get the water to the tank. All right? All right. Happy growing. I'll talk to you next time.